All right, so we're going to get into the painting of the tomatoes on our here. There are some areas I noticed where I still have a little bit of a pencil line that's showing through. I'm going to go back in and clean that up first maybe. And so the value where that was kind of some of this, and so I'm just going to paint over that. Now that it's had a chance to dry and set up a little bit. So the disadvantage sometimes of just doing outline value shapes is your paints might be a little bit more transparent than what you want, and so that causes some issues where sometimes those pencil lines can start to show through on that. So I put those in there, and then I'm going to clean off my brush and then hopefully try to blend those in so it's a little bit of a softer transition between those. Let's brush that in a little bit. We can go back and get some of that middle red and put it in there, but let's first just do a little bit with the with that paint, and then let's kind of carry it out a little bit more so it's a little bit wider, a little bit into that other area, so it'll make a better transition. That's still a little bit of hard edge right there, and so if I bring it out a little bit, it'll soften it up a little. And then I'm just using the corner of the brush here to try and get into some of those other pencil lines there. I might take another coat a little bit later, but that's helped cover up some of those pencil lines so that they're not as visible anymore. And so that was a little bit of a thing you can do as it starts to dry on your thing from day to day to day. Okay, let's start out with the dark brown stuff. We're going to work on this tomato back over here, and it has the dark brown in this area. There's my value line. Nice thing about this dark color is it does cover up fairly good. That's not always the case. There's lots of times with dark colors that for some reason or another they're a little bit transparent, like we're going to find that out with the green. As we start to move into putting the green paint in for these stems, it's going to be a little bit transparent, and so we'll have to work with that a little bit. Okay, so we just have that darker area over here. That's kind of cool. Then what do we got? Well, how's this tomato coming back down over here? So there's the stem portion right there, and I'm thinking that piece is right there, and then there's just a little bit of brown right here as this comes down, and then right in through here there's some brown as well. Now remember, as we have this brush, as we put in the brush there, the corner of it is the sharp end, and so you can use that to get into real tight areas with just the corner of the bristles, and you don't need to have a pointy brush every single time. You can utilize the one brush in lots of different ways. And then we'll have that come out a little bit like that, just because that maybe we have some shadowy things happen there, a little cast shadow stuff. All right, so there's our dark brown application. Let's clean off the brush. Remember, fold the paper towel over. You can give it a squeeze, and that'll clean out most of the stuff. It doesn't clean it out all the way, but it does enough for our purposes. There was a guy who I was watching some of his painting things, and what he would do is he kind of had a separate brush for every value on every color that he was working on, and that's kind of a cool thing. And so that way you keep your colors a little bit more pure. Okay, so there's our red brown. Paint it right up to the brown. This tomato is in back, and it has a little bit more shadow area on it. That's all right. And then we're going to take this up into here. Oh, got a big glob right there. Okay. Let's rotate that around like that. And you can use the tip of the brush. Tip of the brush is always good for guiding paint where you want it to be. A little more goop. Okay, so there's some of the red brown up there. Since there's a big chunk of it on this side over here, I'm thinking to myself that I want to have just a little of it showing over here as well. Just a bit. Maybe something like that. And then I have red brown under here. Dance around these stems a little bit. Using the corner of the brush for getting my detail stuff in. This one actually has a lot of red brown to it. And let's pull it into here. And using the corner of the brush again. Now this area here, it looks to me like on the other tomato, is also red-brown. And so we may need to have just a touch of the brown in here. So I'm going to grab a little bit of brown. So maybe just a touch of that brown right in like that. Clean off my brush a little bit. And now let's blend that a little bit so it's a little thinner. Blending that red and that brown together like that. Well, I have that color available on my brush. I'm going to drop that in with the corner of my brush right into this area. Like that. And so that's going to show off this one just a little bit better. Okay, let's go ahead now. Let's blend this stuff over here. By painting along the seam, painting some of the brown out into the red brown into here, and then maybe painting some of the red brown back into the brown. So that has a nice blend to it. This little area right here, also just along the edge, needs to be a little darker than the tomato in front of it. It occurs to me. And so I'm going to take that right here. There's some brown. Clean off my brush. Go get some red brown. And put that in here, because it does need to go lighter as it comes towards this other tomato over here, but it needs to be darker when it's next to this tomato down here. Something like that. So that we have a little bit of a transition right in through here. I like that. sometimes things work. And then this is slightly darker there. Okay, look at that. Switch that around so I can see what's going on. That's pretty good. Okay, going to clean off my brush a little bit. Now it's time for middle red. Just mix some of this stuff up. I was running out, so I just mixed some up. Now this middle red has some transparent qualities to it as well. You got to kind of almost double coat that, double coat some of those pencil lines. Let's go back and get some more. So that is one thing that's helpful if you are doing paintings, having a complete value drawing rather than just an outline drawing. Sometimes that's helpful because you don't have to worry about the pencil lines as much, because they do come in as a pretty dark value. Alright, let's go back here. There was some up here too, right? Got to do a little switcherooski here again. Feel free to rotate your paintings around, move them around so you can get the angle you want, because I need the tip of the brush here to be able to get into that area. I also need the tip of the brush to be able to come down here like this, and to be able to get into those areas. And also the tip of the brush to be able to come right back in here and put that in. And I'm going to tidy that up just a little bit on the edge. Had a little bit of bumpy stuff going on there. Use the corner of the brush to get into that spot. Seemed to work out all right. I'm going to say that that stem is that wide right there. And then we have that area right in there. This one, pencil line right there, so I'm going to dab in just a little bit of paint to make it thicker so it covers up that pencil line. I also have a little bit of a pencil line right here. So I'm going to dab in that red and just make a thicker application of it like that. Okay, let's clean off our brush. And let's do some blending. This one started to blend for us already on that. And then right down here we had some blending going on as well. Pretty close values, so it worked out pretty well for us. I think I need just a little bit more of that darker value because I had another pencil line. And let's blend that together by painting over it a little bit. There we go. That just blends really nice. Okay, so now we have that back tomato coming along. Let's clean off our brush again. And to go to our light orange, we're transitioning into the area of reflected, or a light, or highlight. So let's put that orange paint in there. And I'm utilizing a little bit of that corner of the brush again. Now this has a bigger transition from this light orange to the red, the red orange that we have, that's a pretty big jump. So that's going to require a little bit more patience and blending on that as we come in here, and also not trying to remove, we don't want to remove too much of the paint because there's pencil lines under there we don't want to get to be shown there. So what I'm doing is I am painting along the seam, red on that side and the orange on this side, and lightly painting over the top, tickling it a little bit with just the tips of the brush, and that's doing a little bit of the mixing. Hopefully it's leaving the paint thick enough to where we cover up the pencil marks like that. That's blending pretty good. So not pressing too hard. If you press hard, then it will mix it, but it will also, you'll get a little bit of a view of what's the value that's underneath a little bit more. And if that happens to be a mark of a pencil, then we're going to have mark of a pencil, and we don't want that. So very lightly mixing the paint so that we still have some thickness to it, like that. Oh yeah. Okay, let's clean off our brush again. This next one's also going to be a serious mixture, because white, this is also another big jump. So I got a good glob of the white. Now remember, I had a little bit of that orange still in my paintbrush. That's why I got an extra thick glob of white. Try and take that right to the edge of the area. And let's clean off my brush again. And once again, along the seam right here between the two, I'm going to lightly tickle it a little bit to try and blend the light orange into the white, like that, without showing the pencil lines. So I do still want it to be white in the middle, but I do want it to blend. So lightly mixing it rather than bold strokes on mixing it. Light pressure instead of heavy pressure. And so that's been able to mix that up fairly well and cover up our pencil marks. Okay, let's clean off our brush again. And I'm just going to move that white around, had some high areas of white, and just using the corner of the brush to do the mixing a little bit. So I want it to be just a little softer without having my pencil line show through. I could be more aggressive with the brush strokes and stuff if I had a solid background on that one. Okay, that is the back center tomato on those. Getting that ready to go. And that one worked out pretty good. Had real strong darks to lights here. Remember, we've pushed the values a little bit. We made our darks darker and our lights lighter, if that's at all possible. The tomato in and of itself, when we look at it, is usually not that dark brown, but we want it high contrast on that, and so that's what we've accomplished.